Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Michele and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stamping Up here in New South Wales, Australia. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm sorry I didn't make it on Tuesday night, but other things were happening and I just didn't have the strength, I think, just to keep going that night and really needed just to rest. So let's just get started and have a look at what we're going to be playing with today. Now, I will admit at the moment my mojo has gone a little bit. Oh, and before we get going too much into this, please jump on, say hello, let us know where you're from, because it is always wonderful to welcome new people. But what I was just about to say is my mojo has gone a little bit, and I have had not quite sure which direction I want to go with things. So anyway, a friend of mine has given me a challenge. And the challenge that this Sharon, this friend of mine has given me, the challenge she has given me is to pick your old favourite stamp in your stash, use your favourite technique with the stamp, create a card without any dies, so no dies, but you can use punches. And the colour combo that she wants me to use is Misty Moonlight, Night of Navy, Summer Splash, Grey Granite, or Crumb Cake. So that is my challenge for today. So first off, I pulled out the stamp sets or the stamp pads that she suggested. And so I have got here Night of Navy, Misty Moonlight, Summer Splash, Crumb Cake, and Grey Granite. I've decided that I'm not going to use the Grey Granite. I'm going to take that one out and just use these four colours. I was going through my stamps to work out what stamp I'm going to use for this challenge and what technique I'm going to use. And I was thinking back to when I first started in Stamping Up, which was 13 years ago. It was 13 years last month. And back then we had a stamp set that had butterflies. And I don't have that stamp set anymore, but I've pulled out this one. Now, it's not an old one, but it is one that's in the current catalogue, Sketched Butterflies. And I thought, well, that's reminiscent of what I used to do 13 years ago. I love butterflies. And I remember playing a lot with this technique we're going to use today and with butterflies. I was just doing... It's a watercolour wash technique, and I just did watercolour wash after watercolour wash and embossing powders and butterflies and stamping on top and butterflies, and I haven't done it for a long time. So we're going to get back to basics, and I'm going to make a very simple basic card, but it can be very effective with a watercolour type wash. Now, back in those days, we had shimmery white cardstock as well as the basic white cardstock, and I love the shimmery white cardstock. I wish they would bring it back, but they haven't. Unfortunately, the basic white doesn't handle water the same way. So there was two options. I could go to a watercolour paper, and do you think I can find my watercolour paper? No, it is somewhere, and I do not know where. Whether that means I need to do a bit of a clean up in here or not, because I know I'll put it away somewhere safe probably, and I can't find it. So that's only left me with basic white. So I've been having a little bit of a play, and I thought what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the thick basic white as my cardstock. And so what I've got here, I've already cut everything. So I've got a piece of thick basic white cardstock. Now, again, it doesn't handle water overly well, but it's something we're not going to be puddling around with paintbrushes or anything like that. So we're not really going to be disturbing the fibres. So it will work. It just will cause a little bit of warping in the cardstock. But, you know, as long as we adhere it very well, you would have to, if you couldn't put dimensionals underneath it unless you mounted it on a mat. So I've got here a piece of thick basic white, and I've cut this at 9 by 13.4 centimetres. I've got a mat that I'm going to be using in the Summer Splash, and I've cut that a little bit bigger, 3 millimetres bigger. So this one's 9.3 by 13.7. And I could, if I wanted to, adhere those two together after I've done my watercolour and my stamping, and then put dimensionals under that, because that then would give that bit more stability. And if you adhered this really well, then it would also help with the warping a little bit. Looks like I've got a little bit of splatter of ink for when I was mucking around, but that's okay. It will get hidden. And then I'm going to do my card base in Misty Moonlight, because I love those two colours together. And I've got another piece of my thick basic white, and that's going to be my card insert. So that's the stamp we're going to be using. That's our cardstock. And then, of course, we've got our colours that we're going to be using in our inks. Now, I'm not going to be using any punches or anything, so this is really going back to basics. So all you need for making this style of card is a stamp set that you love, cardstock that you love, your favourite colours, and some blocks. So I'm going to be using this block here, and I know they've deleted some of the blocks, and I'm sure this one's still current, which is a D block. So that's the block we're going to be using, and we need this to create our water wash. So let me just remove all of these things out of the road, because we don't need that at the moment. We do need our inks, but I don't need the Night of Navy. And I've got my Crumb Cake, Summer Splash, and Misty Moonlight. Now, you could also do the same technique with using the Stampin' Write markers. The thing is, I don't have the Stampin' Write markers in the Summer Splash, so I thought I will just do this with my ink pads. Now I'm going to start off with my lighter colour, and I'm going to place my inks onto my acrylic block. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my Crumb Cake. I'm going to start with my lightest colour, and I'm going to pop a little bit of Crumb Cake on the bottom. Now, I don't want to put too much, but I am going to put probably around about a third, or maybe even a bit under a third. I'm giving that quite a bit of tap because it is a very light colour ink. And also, too, I think my ink pad needs to be re-inked. Then I'm going to grab my Summer Splash, and I'm going to pop this on next. Now, I'm not going to drag it down that way over the top of my Crumb Cake. I'm going to turn that around so my Crumb Cake's at the top, and I don't think you can quite see it. Let me just I'll just grab this for the moment. But there you go. You can just see that Crumb Cake there on the that top 1/3, approximately 1/3 of my block. I'm going to drag my stamp pad down probably a bit more than a third, maybe slightly closer to half my block, and I'm going to drag it from this edge here, because you've got a greater distance between this edge to the ink pad and then this one, and I want to get this as close as I can to the Crumb Cake without mixing it with the Crumb Cake. So I'm just going to start from there and just drag that down. It's probably a little bit more than I wanted, but that's okay, because I do want this to be my slightly more predominant colour. And then I'm going to get my Misty Moonlight. Now, Misty Moonlight, Night of Navy, any of these dark colours, the ink is fairly strong, so don't need as much of this on my block as what could. So really, I'm just going to put a little bit, and it doesn't matter if this just mixes up a little bit, because this is a darker colour. You don't want to put a darker colour onto the light, so that's why I start from my light and work through to my dark. So there, my inks placed on my block. So I'm going to now just take these out of the road. I'm going to bring my piece of cardstock in because I want that fairly close. And then I have got, and I have put it somewhere, but I just did a little bit of moving things around, and wherever I put it, my little spritzer bottle. There it is, my little garbage bin. Spritzer bottle with just some water in it. Okay, we're going to give this a little bit of a spritz. We just want these inks to become a little bit wet and the colours to be damp. Now, I don't usually like doing anything much more than 3 squirts, but I am going to put a little bit more on there. Don't overload it with water because you don't want this sopping. And I'm just going to wipe up the excess water on here, trying to keep this as flat as possible. The colours are starting to blend a little bit. If you want, you could move it around, but just be very aware we don't want to end up with mud. I'm going to bring my cardstock in. Now I'm going to try to centerize this in the middle. So I'm going to, and you will end up with a few splatters if you're not quick, and I'm going to pop it just about there. And I'm going to hold that just so then that water starts to soak into the paper, or not the water so much, but the ink. Now, depending on how much water you have there, you may get a little bit of blotchiness, but that's okay. So there's my image, okay? So we're just getting a bit of a watermark or water wash on our cardstock. Now, I'm going to hit this with my heat gun just to dry this off a bit. If you didn't want so much white areas in here, I could have added another little squirt of water, but you really don't want it too runny. You want the inks to blend and probably not get so much of this white space, but you want them also not to run everywhere. I'm not worrying about those little spots here in colour, because I am going to stamp sentiment in one of those spot areas, but this is a watercolour and you will have variation in colours. Hello Joan, how are you? Thank you for joining us today. So I'm just revisiting a technique I used to use many years ago, like 13 years ago, and having a little bit of fun with this. Now what I am going to do is just, while that's hot, just grab a clean block and throw that over the top just to let the heat of that flatten that cardstock that little bit more. Shouldn't take too long because the glass mat will be a lot colder, but I'm just hoping that that will stop some of that warping that you could get. Okay. So you can see that my card has warped a little bit, but I think that that will still work quite fine, especially once we adhere it to the mat. Now you can, on this, if you wanted to, add a few droplets of water to create some more white space, but I think I've got plenty of white space here without having to worry about creating more. So now I'm going to go ahead and just stamp on top of this. So as I said, this is just a really fun and quick technique. Something I used to do, as I said before, a long time ago. I'm just grabbing a little scrap of white cardstock here just so that I can just test my stamp here. Okay, that's great. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go outside of my square and stamp this butterfly there. And I'm just going to grab one of the other butterflies out of this set. And you know what I've just done? I was going to have that blue at the top, But anyway, it's at the bottom now. But that's okay because I think it still looks really good. And I'm going to pop another one there. Now, do we need another butterfly on there? Let's have a look. So at the moment I've used this one and this one because I thought this one here was going to be way too big. We've got 3 little ones. Let's just have a look and see where they might be positioned. No, I don't think I like that. We've got this other little one here. That one might look quite good. I'll just grab another block. I do like these little butterflies. They're sketched butterflies, and they are really nice and delicate. And I'm going to take that one probably just that little bit more off and just down there. Probably could have put a couple of small ones up here, but I don't really want to over bring them in too close, or could have even taken that one further up, but that's okay. Everything is fine. It's always interesting when you look back and you sort of think, oh, I could have done this and I could have done that. But anyway, we're just going to keep going with the way we're going. So this is my sentiment, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment just down here below. I'm going to pop that on there, and I'm going to stamp that right there. Okay, so this is just a very beautiful little sentiment. Hope is a beautiful thing that flutters in the soul. So, okay, so now what we're going to do, we've got all that stamped, and I'm going to adhere that onto my mat. Now, as I said, because this is warped a little bit, I'm going to make sure that I give it very good coverage with glue, because I want the mat underneath it just to give it that extra support. So daylight savings starts this weekend. Who's looking forward to daylight savings? I actually quite like daylight savings, so I'm very much looking forward to it. Now I'm just going to grab this block because I just want to pop that on top just to add. I might even grab a bigger block and pop that on top. Just going to move this all out of the road and bring in, just so then hopefully all of that will adhere that all together and start flattening that out a little bit. So here's our card insert, and I've cut this at 10 by 14.3. Just pop my lid on there, and I do want to stamp another butterfly just down here on the corner, and I'm going to still use my Night of Navy, and I think I might just use this little one here and just pop him just there. And I am going to add another sentiment, I think, onto this. And again, it's just a simple little sentiment. And this one reads, "You brighten my day. You brighten up so many of my days." So just a nice little one to go on the inside. Let's grab that ink again. Just pop this one right down the bottom. So how's your week been, Joan? Since it seems to be just the two of us today. Hope you've had a good one. Have you got something exciting planned for the long weekend? Okay, so there's that. Let's have a look and see how this is going. Yep, that's looking good. I'm not going to pop mine on dimensionals, even though I was thinking about it. I'm just going to keep it very simple and pop it on straight down. No plans as yet. You still got some time to decide what you're going to do. Joe and I were just talking about it at lunchtime because we've decided we're going to go for a drive on Sunday. And living here in the Southern Highlands, we're not far from Sydney. We're not far from the Blue Mountains. We're not far from the coast. We're not far from Canberra, but we're going to Canberra in a couple of weeks. So we thought, we might just go back down to the coast. So anyway, there's my card. Now you can, if you want to add a bit of bling onto that. So let me just grab what I've got here. And the one that I'm thinking is possibly that one, because that actually brings in some of those colours. Even though I think that is, let's just have a quick look into the catalogue. Yeah, Blue Mountains are nice, but my back is playing up with me at the moment, so I don't know whether I can do a lot of walking. That's the problem. Whereas if we go down on the coast, we actually just go and sort of get some lunch and sit down and watch the beach and maybe go for a quiet walk on the beach. It's not fun when your back doesn't want to work with you. Okay, let's just have a look. What have we got here? We got that particular, here it is, number 15. And the colours in this are, doesn't tell me. It just says ombre decorative dots. I know it's old olive, night of navy, calypso coral. But this one here, I think maybe, it doesn't actually say on here. It's either pool party. I know it's not summer splash, but I think the night of navy ones will actually work quite well. Though I think they will tone in if I wanted to use that. Yeah, it's hard when we've got our bodies start wearing out and mine still want to work, but, you know. Okay, so I'm just going to grab some of these and just dot them around, and I'm going to go with the night of navy. I'm not going to pop too many, but I do want to pop one on the top of that big dot. See, there's always a way to hide those little errors. And I've got a little one up there, but I don't think I'm going to worry about that one so much. Though we'll see, because I could. One. You could put one there. And then that would allow, actually, because keeping that in a triangle, and that would allow that. So there you go. Managed to hide all those little spills in my ink. But there's a very fun and quick card. So I've completed the challenge given to me. This butterfly here could have been slightly more at an angle. I think he's a little bit more upright than it could have been, but hey, that's okay. But it's fun to actually go back and revisit techniques you may not have done for a long time. So, and there's all sorts of things you could do with that. This is one I was playing with before, and I pulled out the motorbikes, so you could do with the motorbikes. The other stamp set I was looking at using was possibly a floral, such as Thoughtful Wishes. This one here, the designer series paper that goes with this, has got that water wash type of effect in some of the papers. So you could very easily, this would work in really well, whether you wanted to just use the leaves or even this thistle one here, or even this little one here. You could do it on a big block. You could do it on a small block. You could do it on a long, narrow block, such as this block here, which is block H. It's just a matter of, as I said before, when I first started in Stampin' Up, I had limited inks, I had a limited number of stamp sets, and I just played with this technique and had a lot of fun with it. And it's just something I haven't done for a while. You can emboss on it. You would do your technique first, your water wash first, and then emboss in top in either your black or your white. But yeah, it's a fun one. This one here had probably a bit more water on it, so I didn't get all these white blotches. But every time you do this, you will get something completely different. You will have no two the same. And I think that's what drew me to this technique many years ago. So give it a go. Let me know how you go and what you end up creating. You can post it in a comment to me, and I would love to see it. I'd love to see what you create. And hopefully my mojo will come back really soon. I'm going to do a little bit of scrapbooking, I think, this afternoon, and just have a little afternoon of playing, so maybe even into the weekend. I'm actually not going to do any sewing because I'm just sort of a bit stressed out with sewing. Monday's a public holiday, so I'm going to leave that till Monday. As I said, on Sunday we're going to go for a nice drive somewhere we quite enjoy, hopefully. But otherwise, I'm going to play. So I hope you get a chance to play either today or over the weekend sometime. And as I said, if you give this technique a go, please share with me what you've created. Or if you're posting it on Facebook, just tag me in it so I can see it and give you a good thumbs up. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you, Joan, for jumping on and having a chat with me. It's always great chatting to people. And I will be back on Tuesday this week. Pretty sure about that. So bye for now. Thanks very much for joining me. Take care.